Air Island has gone through a lot of changes throughout its many updates, and these changes happen to be some of the most drastic of any island in the game. Let's see how the changes have affected this island. So like usual, let's start off with the not so good. Tweedle's melody is pretty good, although done better by Flog. What puts it here is the fact that its multiple voices don't harmonize well with each other, leaving it as very obnoxious to listen to. Ma is really awkward. Its performance is nasal and underwhelming, and the siren note it places in the second half of the song is very jarring. Yostrish got absolutely butchered in its reintroduction to MSM. The loop and the placements completely tore it to shreds, and it's one of the biggest nerfs in the whole game. Rebro is fine in the second half of the song for the one time that it plays, but in the Smoocho verse in the first half it is way too ill-fitting. All three of the woolboxes completely destroy any verses that they're in. They are so noisy and overbearing, and completely destroy the tone of the song, and in Common Woolbox's case, screw over all of the rest of the percussion line, and overall completely ruin the first half of the song. Okay, so there's a bit to talk about here which isn't a good sign. I did not talk about the Wordles in the bat, and that is because I knew they needed their own section. The Wordles are solely responsible for turning the second half of Air Island into the slog that it is today. Now their main chorus at the end is really good, but to get there you have to wait a whole minute from the start of the second half. And all throughout that minute you have to sit through empty, repetitive verses that offer little to no variation, and awkward pauses in the main line, or you get cluttered, noisy verses that are unlistenable and incomprehensible. It's just not worth it, and the Wordles themselves aren't interesting enough to warrant this. So how can we fix this? The first step is to make the end loop only once instead of twice. Second step is to make Persona and Suo call it in response to fill in the gaps. And lastly is to make it so that when they're in the chorus, have the castle bass still play as well as add the fast-paced percussion to add to the climactic feel of the verse. And lastly, bin unnecessary boxers like Woolbox's Ma from the end. It ends up sounding something like this.
They say that we are monsters, but I don't really care. And now that you have landed together, we will share. Just elementary monsters, who care for life of monsters? It's all up in the air, because here we are. In the sky, and yet you don't know how to fly. And I don't want to be here alone. Take a chance, just take a step and take a leap of faith. Get your feet wet, it's in the air.
Okay, let's go on to the good stuff. Riff and Quibble totally carried this entire song on their shoulders. The tracks in the first half are simple yet insanely effective, adding so much to the peaceful feel of the first half. Then when things ramp up in the second half, both the tracks are the entire feeling and energy throughout most of the runtime. Cybop and Toe Jammer start off the song fantastically. Cybop in particular really shines since this is the most unique Cybop track, and I'm all for it. Their duet is so spunky and catchy that it makes this intro super strong. Flog doing a melody is really good. I'm shocked as to how good this ended up, and I'm here for it. It's charming and catchy, and the fact that it got its own seasonal to accompany it is the icing on the cake. Speaking of, Smoocho is easily the best seasonal musically. Its rhythm in particular is really endearing. The two voices add such a nice layer of calm bliss to the verse, and their melody is utter perfection. I've already talked about this thing to death, and yet I still feel as though my words are not doing it justice. Mehmet's bassy long notes fill up so much air and add so much to the song, and its harmony with riff is simply chef's kiss. The percussion line, Hernus Woolbox, is really solid. Jumpler adds some nice feeling. T-Rex hard carries the song with its steady beats and helps the song tremendously in its build-up through its 4 tracks, and Congo and Pango add some good flourish to the verses that they play in. A really strong percussion line. Now, I did not talk about one particular percussionist that I'm sure many are wondering about, and that is because Scups is without question the best monster on the island. Its first track falls into the same boat as Pango and Congo, adding some nice flourish but not really standing out. But then his second track is one of the most dynamic, complex, endearing, charming, outstanding, rhythmically interesting tracks in the entire game. Its rhythm is so far out there and totally different from anything else playing that verse. Yet being the main percussionist, it's the driving force of that verse. It plays along everything so perfectly. Its entire instrument is the most unique of the whole game that it ends up adding even more to the monster as to how unique it really is. It and Riff do a so fantastic job of capping off the song, or will used to, and its contribution is simply perfect. This is a perfect percussion track in every single way. There is nothing wrong with it, and it is a shining example of the power of percussion. That's Air Island, an island with drastically different levels of quality in its sounds. So let's see how it all adds up. Sadly, not very well. Air Island is extremely frustrating as the song started off incredibly strong, but as soon as Woolbox was added, things started falling apart quickly. The best way to describe it is that it's too much in the first half where it's trying to be calm and peaceful, and too little in the second half where it's trying to be upbeat and energetic. The additions of this song are just really awful, and it leaves Air Island as simply the island that fell off hard. Well, that's that. Do you agree or disagree? Do we fly through the air or come crashing down? Let me know in the comments below. Well, that's it for me, and I'll see you in the next one. Wait, what? What island is next? Oh crap.